Welcome to a demonstration of NewVoiceMedia's Contact World for service and support. What I'm going to show you in this demo is what happens to the information we receive in Salesforce once we've had a call or we've handled an email. So I'm looking at Danny Tanner's record, and if you recall from another demo, at the end of the phone call, Danny left a voice survey. I wonder what happens to that survey. Well, as a manager, I'm quite interested in Danny, and I follow him on Chatter as a customer of ours within our Salesforce org. Let's take a look at the feed. Well, there's that positive contact survey that he did yesterday at 4:29 p.m. I'd actually really like to hear what he had to say. So let's download that WAV file, and let's see what happens when we play it. Well, that's good feedback and great to see. We can actually see that on January 26th, we had a negative contact survey. And if that was the case, as a manager following him, I'd have taken a look, I'd have listened to his feedback, and I would have given him a call. Now, as well as the feedback survey, we recorded the whole call too. And every call, inbound or outbound, gets logged as a task. So this is the task from that call. We can see received an inbound call. It was handled by Harry Smith, the agent, came from Danny. These are the numbers, the number he dialed and the number he dialed from. This is when that call took place and how long it lasted. And we've got our call recording player. So right here, as if the WAV file was stored in Salesforce, it's actually not, it's stored in the NewVoiceMedia cloud, but this is a link to it and a call player. And I can see that somebody has already added some notes here for coaching purposes. With that information, we can look at some dashboards too. And this is a dashboard looking at those tasks that are created inside Salesforce. So I can look at the call volume last 7 days inbound and outbound. I can look at the average call volume going back, let's say, for the whole year or the months. You can look at the account activity. So because those calls or emails are logged against whether they're accounts, leads, contacts, opportunities, cases, and so on, I can look at this and go, whoa, the Teaching Academy, 38% of our interactions took place with the Teaching Academy. And why is that? Because the Teaching Academy, well, I mean, they're not a very high spending client, so our cost to serve is going to be way out of whack here. Maybe I need to find out why. I can also look at which of our agents have the highest levels of activity. Let's go back to Danny again though, because there's a little more we can do than that. So with an advanced reporting package and some APIs looking at the back end of NewVoiceMedia's stats and reporting database, we can pull data, very detailed data, into Salesforce and summarize it. So here I can see agents that handle particular calls for our account Home Enthusiast, how long the handle times were, when it hit an inbound queue, the name of the queue, how long the ring duration was, and so on. Let's take a look at a specific example of one of those. Here's our call summary detail, and we can see that for this particular call, it sat in queue for 1 minute and 11 seconds. The agent's phone then rang for 13 seconds before the agent picked up. The conversation lasted 3 minutes and 21 seconds, with 43 seconds of post-call work time, which is the wrap time for the agent and maybe the survey. Walking down the record here, I've got those details in numeric form too, so I can see the amount of time in automation, which is the IVR and perhaps selecting some options and so on, time in queue, ringing time, and so on. Because this data is now logged in Salesforce, I can trigger alerts or workflow when one of these numbers goes out of tolerance perhaps, and I can provide some really cool summaries on dashboards. So let's go back to our dashboards again and pick up a couple of those. Looking at our monthly stats examples, over the last quarter, I can see the interactions offered by month, January through March, inbound calls, outbound calls, and cases. I can actually compare the number of offered interactions into the contact center with a rather high, in this case, number of abandons. Well, it's a demo, we're not always picking up the phone. Let's look at the average handle time and the after-call work time by month. the average handle and after call work time for our cases, and the last state that we were in. And this one's interesting, the average queue duration by month. So we can see here we had 125 calls coming into the system during January. So a high number for us in our particular environment. And the average queue duration was up at about 18, just over 18 seconds. A high number of calls led to a long queue time. In February, we had fewer calls, and March too, and we can see there with fewer calls, we get a shorter queue time. You'd expect that. This dashboard component looks at our average abandoned queue duration by month. So here we can see 52 abandoned calls in January and a low queue duration. What happens in February is interesting. The queue duration goes up, so people are spending longer waiting to be serviced. Hence, perhaps as we should expect, the number of abandons goes down. Let's look at another example of a dashboard and our agent summaries. Here I can see with our top 10 agent inbound interactions, who's our top agent handling inbound calls, actually it's inbound and outbound. Well, it's an agent called Scott Glick, 712 inbound calls, highest number. I can look at the amount of time spent on calls, or in an away state, or in wrap. And I don't know what's going on here with agent Harry Smith, because he spent 64 hours compared with 146 for our user up here on calls, and a colossal amount of time in an away state. Agents that aren't logging out when they should. Agents who aren't answering. So there's an agent here. So again, we'll pick up Scott. He had 744 interactions, of which only 32, a smaller percentage, still perhaps too high, where he didn't actually answer the phone. On the other hand, we have other users here with much worse percentages, and we need to do something about that. So this was a demonstration of what we do, because every call is logged in Salesforce. We can then use Salesforce dashboards, reports, workflow, and alerts to trigger action and to look at a management level into our performance. Thanks very much for watching.